Hey, this is Tyler with Tjack Survival. I have a whole bunch of field review videos of knives, but I don't have a lot of what I would call the tabletop review. So I'm gonna knock out a whole bunch of tabletop reviews to give you the specs and some close-ups of all of the knives that I demo. All right, stay tuned. All right, so Bark River makes sheaths that you can piggyback, which is really cool. They all have about a 3-inch gap. And I've off-centered mine just a little bit. And basically what I've done is I piggybacked the Mini Fox River on the Canadian Camp 2. Now I shaped the sheath. My video about that knife talks a little bit about how I shaped the sheath. And then I also shaped the sheath for the Canadian Camp 2 as well, which as you can see here. And instead of getting rid of the excess 550 cord, I just threw a bunch of that 550 cord wrapped in the back, which is fine because there's a little bit of an angle from the blade shape that kind of gives me a little pocket for the 550 cord to hold in. So a little bit of the characteristics about the Canadian Camp 2. It's different. It's a very, very different knife, and I like the difference. Now this one's a little bit darker. It's got a little patina on it because I've used it. Normally they're a high polish brush shine. The one thing that's really different about this is the handle shape. So the handle on the bottom of this thing, it's kind of square along the bottom. And initially I didn't like it, but fortunately if you want to send it back to Bark River, they will sand off all these little edges and make it softer for you. However, they did this on purpose, and the reason being is as you're chopping, it tends to make the blade stay straight up. That hard angle on the bottom keeps the blade from tilting right or left, and it gives you a nice firm grip on the blade, so it's self-righting. Now, another interesting thing about this blade, it was designed based on the old designs of what the Canadians wanted in the Hudson Bay. Now, you got to think about what they would use that for. Well, back then they were chopping moose, they were using a camp knife, they were cutting kindling, a lot of really the big camp tasks. So they made this knife in order to do those big camp tasks. The back of the handle is slick, which is nice because it gives you kind of a rocking motion, which is nice and slick in your hand. That way you won't lose it. That front with those ridges keeps it self-righting, so it's not going to go to your right or your left, which is really good because big knives are dangerous. You can have a tendency to hit something and have it shear away. With this, you hit and it stays solid because your fingers are keeping it right and forward. They made a little bit of an arc to this, which is like a very, very small barong. And a barong is basically a large jungle tool. And the reason why that's good is because it gives you a nice ability to chop through jungle type vegetation and stuff. It's good for clearing out and making a fort, like this guy you can see right here behind me. Good for making all those type of camp tasks, but it excels at processing large game. It is really, really good at getting in there around the hip sockets on a moose, deboning a moose, deboning an elk, and getting all the meat out of that. So that's the purpose for this knife. It has a fairly solid, almost solid 90-degree angle on the back of it. The good thing about this fairly solid 90-degree angle on the back is that if I use a ferro rod, it throws some really good sparks. All right? I hit my cameraman there. So, throw some really solid sparks. That, to me, is a super positive. Any bushcraft or camp type knife that I have, I really like to have the 90-degree angle on the back so that it can throw sparks. The grind on this is convex. It's A2 steel with the convex grind. The reason why that is important is because, again, strength in the field. The solid angle bushcraft Scandinavian ground knives that are a flat grind, they're great, they're sharp, but they go dull quick, and they have a tendency to roll the edge, even some of the super stills. So this guy is a convex ground, which just consistently changes the angle until it meets the tip. That makes it deceptively sharp. You can run your finger on it, not really feel a bit of an edge, but push just a little bit and it cuts so fast. One test I did was I used the Bark River Classic Drop Point Hunter and a fillet knife to cut one side of a rabbit and the other side of the rabbit. I kid you not, the Bark River knife cut better than the fillet knife because of the convex grind. I was able to take the socket hip out, remove the parts of the rabbit much easier. Yes, a fillet knife is not designed to cut a rabbit, but that was what I had to test. Anyway, it worked out great. So this is the Bark River Canadian Camp 2. It's A2 steel, convex grind, a very, very well-made knife. One thing that's a side note that you can do to make this a little more camp safe, since you will probably get this type of a knife to process food and to make shelters and so forth, is make sure that you use food safe mineral oil. It's basically just a laxative, but the food safe mineral oil will keep the blade in outstanding condition. You can use just about any oil, but that's the best one for food, so you're not putting motor oil on your blade that you cut your dinner with, and that can create a problem. And I'm a really big fan of the big knife, little knife combination, so I put this this Canadian Camp 2 in together with the mini Fox River. That way I've got a big shelter making, game processing chopper that goes with a small, minute carving wood skinning type of skinner, and also that sheath comes with the ferro rod. I'm sorry, it comes with a holder. I put the ferro rod in it, and this is the Habilis Bush Tools fire rod made by Exotech. I'll put a link for all of this down in my comments, and if you have any questions, leave me some comments. I'll leave you any of the links that you want, answer the questions to the best of my ability. If this has been valuable to you, please hit the subscribe button. Please share, like, comment, and thank you for watching Tjack Survival.